Hey everyone, welcome to this new moon sidereal astrology forecast for the new moon on April 11th and 12th, 2021. All right, so new moon, second new moon in Pisces. If you're expecting me to say Aries just then, be sure to check out that link down below for more information. We are using the visible sky called true sidereal astrology, and it does change the signs from mainstream astrology. All right, so second new moon in Pisces, the fish, it's all about still, as it has been, connecting to the ethers of life, doing things that are more important to us on a soul level, and also maybe cultivating some dreams or some ideals throughout this time period. So very watery, still very good to develop this water energy. 2 weeks ago, we had the full moon in Virgo, which is a reminder to ground all of this into the physical world through maybe healthy habits, good routines, work, maybe our service, right? These kinds of habitual things that help ground this Pisces energy, which is still great to develop at this time, but definitely a new beginning with another step in the right direction with greater receptivity now, finding more peace and stillness and spiritual well-being. So great to set these intentions. It is the lowest energy phase of the cycle, so do give it some time. But of course, since it's already been Piscean, we could just expect this energy to continue. But any new beginnings, any new intentions you want to set around this April 11th and 12th is fantastic. All right, so we do have a slight conjunction with Venus and Mercury with this. We'll talk about maybe some energy dealing with relationships, maybe some new deeper perspectives. We do have a square to Pluto, so this one is a bit more deeper, more intense than maybe the last one in the sense of doing things that maybe require facing fears or self-empowerment we'll talk about. But there is a nice sextile up to Mars and Jupiter, a little bit of support for a bit of fire and open-mindedness. All right, so let's take a look at all of this here in more detail when we return. All right, so here's the chart for the new moon. Again, it will be between the days of April 11th and 12th for most of us, because the new moon will be at exactly 23:33 Eastern time of the Americas, if you want to make that calculation for wherever you are in the world. But for all intents and purposes, it will be around this late Sunday, early Monday time period. All right, so new moon, fresh new starts, but really a continuation of the energies we've already been experiencing. We've had this Piscean energy for over the past month, and now a new lunar cycle starting in this constellation, which, by the way, is quite common since Pisces is a very large constellation. Anytime we have a new moon towards the earlier part of it, we will have another one towards the later part of it. It's almost like, it takes longer to develop these Piscean energies, right? That's why I feel like these larger constellations, they just require more time, right, with the energy to really develop it to the utmost. So I think it's great to set these intentions with energy that's still been in aura, by this still kind of energy that's around, what's important on a soul level, and finding more peace in our life and maybe cultivating some dreams or ideals. That's great, but it's definitely a new step in the right direction with that, and maybe even quite literally some new beginnings with this. So as we do approach the end of this week, it is good to clear things and finalize things from this previous cycle in this context, and see maybe there's some new things we can continue to develop in a completely new way or with new things going into next week. So do listen. It's definitely the lowest energy. It's a time of clearing, of finalizing as we approach the new moon, and then slowly setting intentions and building some new momentum to further develop this Piscean energy. So this later part of Pisces is more developed than the earlier side. It, first of all, generally speaking, isn't as challenging because we're more seasoned with the energy, right? We've been here much longer. But the later part definitely is the more spiritual part. The earlier part definitely has more to do with the ideals, and it might be more challenging to find peace and all this, but it's definitely easier the further we get into this constellation. So I would say with the later part of Pisces in particular, it is really good for that spiritual development, finding peace, spiritual activities, again, doing things that will fundamentally be more important to our soul and soul fulfillment, right? And creating space. And I would say fundamentally just presence, right? Having more presence, more beingness, more acceptance, more faith and trust, right? These deeper spiritual qualities of Pisces, very good to set intentions with. So with the new moon, we do have a slight conjunction with Venus and Mercury. Now keep in mind, Venus and Mercury are always somewhat close to the sun. So, they're always going to be, not always, but very often going to be in some sort of conjunction with the sun. But nonetheless, they are a little bit close. So I think it already has been a good time of seeing the value of this deeper spiritual energy with Venus here, right? Venus was already conjunct the sun, so we've already had a lot of this experience. But the value and enjoyment, right, of doing things important on a soul level, and of bringing more peace into our life. And I would say also in the context of relationships, right? Relating in a way that is more accepting, is more unconditional, right? Is more, at peace, and willing to have, again, the faith and trust in the relational process, right? In the whole process of relating and all of this, which brings the stillness, which brings the peace. So there definitely is this context of maybe a nice step in the right direction regarding these values and enjoyments of the Piscean energy, but also perhaps in regards to incorporating it into how we're relating with others. Now, Mercury, of course, has been here. And so in this context, our minds are still in the ethers. So it's a great time of maybe listening to our dreams, heightened intuition, perhaps, understanding or trying to, understand these more deeper spiritual things in life. Very beneficial during this time. But of course, this isn't the easiest place for Mercury to be in. So anything that is outside of our control, especially in regards to what we're thinking about, is very important to surrender, right? In that context, and see how everything does end up ebbing and flowing, and things end up working out almost serendipitously. But it's very important to, again, trust the inner guidance and trust the intuition, and again, have that faith and trust to see how everything does unfold. And that can ease the mind and the thoughts and all this. But it could be a very dreamy, very idealistic time as well with Mercury and Pisces, and very good for all forms of imagination, creativity, and especially spiritual activities, as we've discussed. All right, so those are the conjunctions, arguably the most important part of any new moon. But we do have these squares up to Pluto. And so it is this sort of energy about maybe making some empowering changes, right? So Pluto's been in Sagittarius for a very long time, multiple years, since 2007. And so our minds have really been transforming in terms of perspective on life, right? Our perspective on life has been transforming very much for these many years. And so now in this context is how can we, see what's possible, see potentials, right? Which is the strong Sagittarius energy, seeing potential, seeing, what inspires us, and seeing how we can also be willing to go with the flow in the process, right? That's one way of looking at it. Another one is perhaps developing spiritual perspectives on life. So spiritual philosophies or things like astrology or spiritual development, right? This is also a great way of synchronizing the Sagittarius and Pisces, the beliefs mixed with the spirituality, right? But fundamentally, Pluto squares can be a bit intense in the sense that they can bring up deeper energy for us to work on. I like to think of it as shadow work, right? So it's a great time of doing things like healing or just being aware of the deeper dimensions, and to, again, be willing to go with the flow, because Pluto can show us where we're holding on very tight, all right? And so it is very important to be non-attached where Pluto is, because Pluto will remove all the falsities, right? All the falseness, the things that aren't real, both within us, in our life, in our perspective. So it's important to kind of allow for that, right? To be non-attached to our perspective, to be non-attached to what we want, to even our dreams and ideals with Pisces, or even our own spirituality. And so having this non-attachment then helps the energy transform and change. And that's what Pluto wants to do, is strip away the old outworn skin, the shedding of the skin, to make way for things that are more true to us, right? And more attuned to our deeper core, right? So very important to be non-attached to the ego-related stuff or the mental perspective-related stuff to allow for this change and transformation. But this can be a very transformative lunar cycle in the sense of facing fears, empowerment, right? That sort of transformation. When we are more non-attached, we have nothing to lose, we are more willing to go with the flow, it can be very empowering. And so great intention to set with Pluto is that personal transformation and empowerment. All right, but we do have some supportive energy here with Mars and Jupiter. Nothing major, but some sextiles here, and they are trining each other. So a bit of support with the fire in the sense that there might be a bit of an opening for some assertiveness, confidence, initiative with Mars just available. And again, a bit of that Sagittarian kind of energy of being open-minded. I think it's, again, a very constructive year for long-term things, goals, accomplishments. So Jupiter here finishing Capricorn for the time being, about to enter Aquarius. Our visions for the future might get particularly emphasized. So be open to future aspirations, future potentials, opportunities. There's certainly an opening for that. And just a bit open-minded and perhaps a bit inspired supporting this new moon, or again, at least available during this new moon as well. All right, so that is the new moon in a nutshell. I do want to mention that the sun will be in Pisces for only the next 10 days, right? So I think even though this is starting the whole new lunar month, the strongest Piscean influence will be for the next 10 days as the sun does finish up Pisces and starts to go closer to Aries. But nonetheless, new beginning for the lunar month to see how can we carry this spiritual energy one step forward, carry these perhaps things important to us on a soul level or dreams one step forward, and just fundamentally having more peace and stillness and beingness and acceptance in our lives. This could be involving values and relationships with Venus, great intentions to set. It could be involving how we're thinking about things in our day-to-day routines with Mercury. Some personal empowerment certainly available and a great way of working with this new lunar month, and some support from the fire planets of Mars and Jupiter. All right, so everyone have a fantastic new moon. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to click that like button if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're not yet signed up for MTZ Insiders, definitely check out the link down below for that. It's a newsletter, absolutely free, and you do get these videos released before YouTube. But yeah, thank you again for all of your support. I'll see you all next time for the next astrology forecast. Take care.